Good evening, folks. Red County Blue Nation, Stephen Rorick, James McMahon. We got our special guest this evening, Hans Prahl. Hans, appreciate you coming in this evening.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, right on.
Thank you, sir.
So I guess if you would, Hans, if you'd just kind of give us a little overview. I can put a little bit of stuff out there. I know that you were up at the Capitol kind of checking out what they're talking about with this new semi-automatic weapons bill.
Yeah. So I actually went up on, it was last Tuesday, I went up and actually testified. And they had a little rally outside, and, it was good 200-300 people there. And so they basically got it. Everybody was big line standing in, and they told us that this was one of the biggest, showings that they'd had for people, whether for it or against it. And there was quite a few people for and against it. And it was just to give kind of a quick 2-minute synopsis of the whole deal. It was a little ambiguous, and if you read the bill and you actually read through the actual like the writing of it, what it actually says is not actually what they said they're trying to propose. Because when the thing kicked off, the two senators, Senator Holman and Senator Gonzalez, are the two that sponsored the bill. And they were trying to say that the bill was all about just enforcing existing laws, i.e. the 15-round magazine capacity that had been passed, I guess, back in 2013. Well, it was obvious that's not what the bill's for, right? The bill is just it's a vehicle and a ways to try to get some things pushed through in order to establish some ground footing to actually get like a full assault weapons ban, And that's kind of the feel that I got from the people that I talked to who were against it, but they had some folks up there, and they had a bunch of people who were able to testify. And so the thing testifying started at 2 p.m. and they shut it down at 11. And I signed up like 3 or 4 days before online, and I didn't get to testify until like 10 p.m.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
So I was there almost 11 hours, just kind of hanging out, waiting. And my brother, he was a Marine veteran. I'm a veteran too. We were up there and he was going to testify, but he didn't get a chance. But essentially, what the whole nuts and bolts of what they came, because everybody kind of called them out and said that's not what it is. What the bill actually, what they're trying to propose is they want to ban gas-fired auto or semi-automatic weapons that have a detachable magazine, right? And so their solution is they want the gun manufacturers, and I believe there's one gun manufacturer out there that actually makes one of these, but they want you to have a semi-automatic weapon that has a permanently affixed magazine.
Them are hard to load.
And unload, right?
Yeah.
And that was a lot of the folks that were talking in there. It brought up points to say, how do you safely unload this? So first thing you do if you're going to unload a weapon is you drop the magazine.
Right.
And the guy says, well, you can some of them have plates on the bottom, so you can just pull that plate off and it'll unload. And it was like, with the spring? That would just be
a mess.
And especially if you're in a situation, you got to be kidding me, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
that doesn't make no sense.
No, it was just, and the whole deal was just kind of, I believe it was, they tried to pass a gun bill last year, and I don't remember which one it was, and it didn't make it through. So I think they changed the verbiage on it, made it a little softer, tried to put a little veil on actually what they were trying to get through. And, it passed through it made it out of committee that day, or I guess they voted that night, and it made it out of committee. So I think they're still debating on it, and I don't know when the official vote, they keep changing that, when the official vote's going to be.
Well, so let's talk about a little bit of the technical stuff of that. So if they're talking about a gas gun, AR-15, right, folks, would be a perfect example. What about, so when I was, because I tried to look through the bill today, and like you said, it's a little bit confusing of what they're really talking about, and so I was trying to, I'm trying to think to myself, does this include an automatic, just like a 1911, right? You got a detachable magazine. It's, I guess maybe that's where part of the technical part of this is. So is a 1911 actually not a gas operated mechanism? Is it just the recoil of the?
Yeah, I think that's what they're getting at. I think some pistols are, and the other is like AR pistols, short barrel rifles, things like that. that actually, you know, are gas operated weapons. And again, if you really look at all the weapons that are gas fired, I mean, I know there's a myriad out there, and I know there's a lot of folks probably listening that know a lot more than I do, but the majority of what they're trying to do is, you know, modern sporting rifle, or, you know, assault weapon, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, but an AR-15, you know, AK and SKS, things like that, you know, and that's what they're trying to get rid of.
Well, and we know, I mean, their basis of what they're talking about is
infringement.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, we know they have ulterior motives to.
Yeah, I think they do. And Senator Holman, I mean, his son died at the Aurora shooting years and years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and ever since then, he joined, actually became a state senator. And, you know, and I'm sympathetic to that guy. And they had a lot of folks actually testifying that were for the bill, you know, in support of it. And, you know, I had some moms up there that had lost some children, and you had a couple people that had actually
absolutely
been shot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm a human being. We're all human beings. Absolutely sympathetic to that cause.
Right.
But banning that isn't, you know, and they're like, well, it's just for reloading. And I'm like, you know, how about focusing on some mental health issues and some socioeconomic problems?
Well, the tail's wagging the dog. If they think taking weaponry out of the hands of good people that have self-control and discipline is going to, you know, round down some of this shooting, I mean, they're pissing up a rope. It comes down to train your children. People, the mental health thing is the whole thing, and that's what it comes down to. I have been shot. I've watched a personal family member being killed in front of me, and I wish to this day that I would have had a handgun or something that I could have defended myself with.
And I think that was the argument. That plus, you know, people that want to use these weapons as, you know, as a recreation, you know?
Right.
Which is a big thing in hunting, you know. And they're like, well, you can't really hunt with a 223 or something like that. And I'm like, well, it depends on how good a shot you are, you know. I mean, technically you can't.
I mean, if you're going to own one weapon, a 223 is a pretty damn good all-around weapon. In my opinion,
It's just not big game. It's just
you're not going to do a
game
big game
caliber,
thing
but-
unless you're a really damn good shot.
Well, you know, we're talking about the legal ramifications. You know, the state states that you got to use a 243 caliber.
You
as
need
the
it.
smallest.
Exactly.
But you know, coyotes and prairie dogs and other varmints, and you know, there's a lot of different things that a 223 would be suitable for, and you know, I mean, out at the ranch type stuff, a scenario. I mean, there's a lot of different applications for something of that particular caliber.
Well, we'd kill a pig with a 22. We'd kill a cow with a 22. But it got to be good.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But when you're hunting wildlife, yeah, you want to increase your odds of the kill. So a bigger caliber and a bigger carrier, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, you know, and that's the other thing is they had ranchers and and the people making the bill are the ones living in Denver. Well, the rest of the state is not Denver,
right.
you know. And again, realize the intention behind it. Realize, you know, that there's a lot of emotion, and are you really doing this stuff because you're emotionally attached, you know? And that I can't argue that, and I can't be against it, but there's so many applications for these kinds of things. And if anything, it's a right. It's a constitutional right. I mean,
Absolutely, and that's where I'm going to draw the line. But a lot of this is propaganda. A lot of the stuff is not taught. We're not educated. We don't understand the Constitution, and they're preying upon people's lack of knowledge. And that's what I'm upset about is we just do not have a knowledgeable group of people that can combat the wilds of what they're talking about. And when they prey upon people's lack of knowledge, I think that's where we try to intercede and say, wait a minute, you know, back up a minute. Let these people digest really what you're talking about. It's almost like letting wolves loose.
When and that's
You know, I got cows on the valley floor, and I'm scared to death of what's fixing to happen.
the whole thing too about the ban is, I mean, that's really a mirage of all kind of stuff. I mean, the fact that, you know, like Mr. Holman's child getting, I mean, that's reality there. And I mean, them things do happen, but there's an underlying motive there of to try to get, America's the last frontier, and the reason that we're the last frontier and we're the last nation to not go under is because we got the Second Amendment.
100%.
And that's really the bigger ulterior motive here of what they wish they could do is get these guns, take our guns away. And I mean, this is a really sticky situation, and I know that people get caught up in it. Families get ruined over this kind of stuff, but I mean, it's already a proven fact that the CIA, they put these black ops and they do these different things to stage these shootings to try to make guns look bad, and innocent people get taken down. And I mean, if it's your family or whatever, I mean, I can totally understand where they would be like, we need to try to do something. But I guess I often wonder what them people, if they're so, and no disrespect of any kind, but maybe clouded to the real bigger picture here of why that was even happening. I mean, to try to think that you're going to take the problem, folks, with trying to ban an automatic or semi-automatic or any kind of weapon really is that you can't ban it from the criminals. And the criminals are the ones, they have plenty of firearms. Let's face that. I mean, guns are easy to get if you got money, right? If you got a pocket full of money, you can just pretty much go get whatever you want. And that whole aspect of someone that's illegal, they're the ones that are usually creating the havoc. I mean, unless you have one of these stage shootings that makes it look bad for, just like what happened with President Trump. I mean, I'll never believe that they let.
I mean, it's so absurd, it's unbelievable.
I mean, anybody that would believe that whole narrative, of course, is, it just doesn't work that way in real life, right? I mean, that's not how it works. Anybody that's going to crawl up on that roof that really wants to get down to business, that isn't what you're going to do. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a real back to education is the key here. I mean, we need to let people know that. I mean, if everybody knew how to use a gun, a lot of this stuff wouldn't take place.
A lot of that anxiety and fear would go away if people actually shot a gun, a pistol, and a rifle. A lot of us were born on the dirt. Most people are born on the pavement. They're very sterile people, and that's what I feel that we're combating a very sterile mentality where people have not been exposed to either shooting a rabbit or a bird or doing target practice.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Both great points. I also think one big thing is important, especially if you're looking at it through this like a legislative political lens. So much easier to just pass a bill than it is to actually focus on education, mental health. That's the long, hard, true solution.
Right.
So much easier and quicker to just put a couple pieces of paper out, power the pen, and let's fix this problem.
And that's political gain.
Yes.
And people using their position as a politician to get reelected to keep the money coming in and keep tax dollars to me is the real root of the problem. If somebody really wanted to look at this, if they had a heart that said, where are we losing this at? And it really does come down to, let's get educated. Let's understand that it's not the gun that does the dirty. It's the heart and the mind of the individual that's pulling the trigger that does the dirty.
Yeah,
So
100%.
it's a lot of work.
And if you think about what happened in New Orleans not too long ago, right? There's a car, a truck. That's as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than a pistol or a semi-automatic weapon.
More people get killed by vehicles than almost any other thing, and I mean, we don't think twice about it.
But I also think there's virtue signaling, and people, this is what my party's doing, and I got to look good in front of my party, and this is how I get reelected.
You're right, and it comes down to the money thing. We're still serving money instead of principle, and that's where it's really disheartening for me is when we're not serving each other. And in looking at solutions-oriented answers, but we're looking at how do I get reelected and who can I serve, and it comes down to who do you serve. It really comes down to who do you serve, and that's where we're at. We're in a it's a big pinnacle here pretty quick.
Well, yeah, if anything that's been happening in the last 2 weeks has shown us, especially in the last couple of days with what's been going on with Doge and USAID and all that.
Absolutely.
If that doesn't show you, holy cow, I've just been sitting on the couch scrolling till midnight, like I'm eating popcorn. Holy cow. It's nuts.
It's nuts, man. I mean, and isn't, all I can think in my own mind is it's like, rejoice on one hand, and then on the other hand, I'm like, it is about time, right? Like, how long did that have to go on? What do you mean the chair of the treasury is like, no, you can't come in here, you can't see this, man. That's public business, right? That's our money. That's what we talk about a lot. What, I don't know if
So the macro and micro. So what's being exposed up there, and this might piss a few people off here in little old Custer County, but it's almost a mirror. It's a mirror of transparent. You're doing the public's business. You're held to a higher sense of behavior. You are, because it's not your business. You can risk your business, and you can put your stuff at risk, and you can manage that outside of the realm of fiduciary and trustee and ethics. But when you're in that building and you're an elected official or you're getting taxpayers' dollars, you damn well better hold yourself accountable to the people you're representing. And that's where I am really pissed off about.
Well, and you and I, Jimmy, we've talked about this immensely. You know that I wholeheartedly agree with you, but most people don't, right? They just don't have that ethical, moral upbringing to try to be accountable. And
Yeah, 100%, Steve. And I didn't mean to shift gears on you guys or anything.
no, this is
We shift gears all the time, man. We downshift, upshift, we power shift, we
infinite
double
variable
clutch.
transmission.
Yeah, we switch to 2-speed rear end.
Well, and I've been looking at this and watching and, glued to the news and everything. And just the one thing that keeps popping up is if you look at the people freaking out, right, screaming and yelling, taking to the streets, all this, if you look at it, what are they freaking out? Are they freaking out about the fact that the government is wasting our money? Or are they freaking out about somebody's
cutting off
their supply? Like, what are they actually freaking
That's
out
what they're
about?
freaking
So
out
either
about.
way, it's a double whammy, because what we're saying is, yeah, we're not going to waste the taxpayers' money, and you were using it and abusing it, and you were getting something for nothing. You were unaccountable for it. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Well,
I mean, it sheds light on the whole thing, but yeah,
it's
the simplicity of the people that are whan.
It's the bureaucracy is what really is the ornery part. I mean, there's definitely people out there that could use some aid, and I mean, we probably have the ways and means to give that aid. But when they're talking about only 5% of the money reaches the people that need it,
Right.
I mean,
That's an administrative thing, and that's one of the things I was finding out about the grants. Is you get a grant for a couple $100,000, and it ends up, you may get $20,000-$30,000 actual spending money because of the administration of it. It is such, and that's what Reagan said. There's nothing the government can do that the private sector can't do. It's so much more efficient. But we've gone into this.
well, and that's
Government is God.
Well,
Government
and
is God.
The whole thing about it is what we were just talking about is, I mean, why are they upset? Because you're cutting into their money stream. Them people are mad because you're taking.
Well, you're knocking them off the tit.
Yeah.
You're knocking them off the tit. You're weaning them, man. They're going to have to go get a real job and make profit and actually pay into the system as opposed to sucking off it.
Yeah, well, 100%. And in the military, when we would do, worked in intelligence, and so we would do, intelligence assessments where we would have to find the enemy's center of gravity, right? And that, I believe that USAID that's their power, right? That money, that's their center of gravity.
That was their source of power.
Right, and now that it's they know that it's going away. They know that the corruption's coming up. They know, you didn't see all the rock stars out there yelling and screaming from the Democratic Party. You didn't see them all screaming. You
Nope.
saw a bunch of young people or some older people, non-relevant, that were, but the
Completely didn't have their beak deck in the water. These are people that are residuals, and they're looking at the surface of what's going on, but they don't understand the depth. And they're very, here again, their lack of knowledge is being taken advantage of. And that's a continuum. And that's where we've got to get education. Education. If we don't get people educated on the duties of the government and how things are supposed to be done, we're going to continue. We will repeat this whole pendulum.
Well, and I mean, Hans brought up a real good point there. It's easier just to try to whip it down with the bill than address what you're talking about, because I mean, I had a conversation with my dad and one of the gals that helps me here and there. We went to lunch a couple days back, and the talk had come up about tariffs, and she said, "Well, I don't know what a tariff is," and I said, "Well, so tariff was how we funded the government for many years. It wasn't about income tax, right? You're not supposed to tax the people; it's supposed to tax the countries that we're doing business with." And she's like, "Well, I've never even heard of that." And then I had a conversation with my dad too. He's like, "Yeah," he's like, "I could barely pass government." He's like, "I got D's." And I was like, I was the same way, right? I mean, I barely passed government too. I mean, but it just was so boring. And they don't teach us none of the stuff I never knew when all through school, the right to bear arms was the right to bear firearms. Right? I mean, when you're just a little kid and you hear the right to bear arms, it doesn't add up. If nobody ever mentioned that it's a firearm,
yeah.
I mean, it's like...
Well, they got to give the why behind it. And here's where the school system is losing it. We don't give the why behind anything.
Well,
and as a 3-year-old kid, why is it? They're constantly going, why? And you mentioned that. You're smarter going into kindergarten than you are getting out of college. Because you had that purity and you wanted to know the why behind stuff.
Well, and that's the problem with our education system. It's been weaponized against us, just like everything has. I mean,
to dumb you down.
And I mean, hopefully, I got everything crossed, Riley, that this really will be a new golden age.
And I think, and like I said, I've never done social media in my life, and on a purpose. When I was
same here. We're pretty much newbies with all this.
But I did it out of necessity for business and stuff. But I personally, I have a Facebook account, but I never check it. But I got an X account, and man, I can see why it's so addictive. One, but two, it's just scrolling through and just seeing all this stuff. And I believe people through social media, the ones that are paying attention, are now getting educated.
Yes.
And sunlight is a great disinfectant, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sunshine law.
Exactly.
The sunshine law. Billy. Anyways, all the elected officials, sunshine law. Just so you can hear me. Very important. You do the public's business. Here again, and I hope that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Because
everything where an elected official is, they're interceding on the behalf of the constituents that elected them. And it's not their business. It's not like, oh, it's Jimmy's plumbing business. No. Jimmy's plumbing business, I can do whatever I want to. I can take risk. I don't have to take risk. I don't have to be transparent. I can be very quiet about all of it. But when you do the public's business, it's transparent, it's open. You're not in competition with anybody. The only time that you need to do an executive kind of meeting is when you're in competition with different things, and it's prudent to do that, or to hide somebody's individual information. But otherwise, man, it's got to be wide open. You got to be completely transparent. All your conversations. Matter of fact, you can't even give the appearance of wrongdoing.
And I would bet that 80 to 90% of the people that are our elected officials at this point, I would almost bet that they have no idea of that.
I would 100% agree. Or
they know about it, but the temptation is so great that they compromise that value and that in that I guess it's a moral law. And
we've talked about this before. What it really boils down to, man, is when somebody thinks that they're better than someone else.
Absolutely.
That's what gives you that, well,
high-mindedness.
Yeah, I have this little bit of edge. Well, I know what's best for these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you get that, and again, I'm not trying to blanket everybody, but typically, East Coast, West Coast, right, where the bigger cities are, and that's where the majority of
Absolutely.
people are. They believe I live in this high society. My house is all wired with smart everything and this and that. And those people that live out in the sticks in West Cliff, what do they know? And it's kind of like, I bet you we probably know a lot more about life than they do.
Yeah, let's have a big old solar flare and blow out everything.
Right.
Let's see who's who on the neighborhood then.
No, I feel pretty comfortable in Custer County.
Yeah.
I feel pretty comfortable in Custer County.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, pride comes before a fall and humility brings honor. And we're to the point where we have got such arrogance and prideful people where they're lawless. And that's the problem. We do not have people that are above board or interceding on the behalf of the people that are paying them. So here again, if you're an employer and you're paying somebody, you're watching, are they profitable, not profitable? What are they doing? But when you get into the government, it's even more so. You really got to be looking at, are they profitable or not profitable? And we've got to the point now, it's just a big old club of government, whether it's the school, the county building, whatever, any kind of mayors and the councils. It's kind of a group of people that go, well, nobody's really watching. Because we, the people, where the Constitution starts off, we, the people, have failed at our duty is to hold them people responsible.
100%. And it's just when you were a kid and you had the cookie jar in the kitchen. If mom wasn't there, you'd sneak around. You if you couldn't have a cookie till after dinner. But
Did you have a glass of milk and a cookie?
I believe that's human nature. In some
Well,
respects.
it is because you don't have that self-control and discipline.
Yes.
And here again, that's where we're at. And that's why Donald Trump, I believe, he talks to these people like they're third and fourth graders.
It's fun to watch.
It's absolutely because it's pure human nature. And he understands it. He ran businesses. I ran 28 carpenters, roofers for 7 years. I know about human nature. And I love what he's doing because he plays it. And he understands, no, they're going to... If you don't rein them in, they're going to abuse their position, and that's what we're doing. It is a battle. I don't know if it's a
And so we've talked
spiritual battle or
It
not.
is. It's a battle all the way around, and it really is an educational battle. And we've talked about this before, right? I mean, that's what you need to do, folks. Is start at your own home, right? It's
In your own heart.
Yeah, and it's the relationship that you have with your family, with your spouse, with your kids. I mean,
Holding the door open for an older person.
doing all that, but really getting away from being comfortable. This whole, well, life is plenty good. I don't have to do anything, which I'm getting in. I've been kind of doing that. It's easy to get soft,
Complacent.
You put a couple of years on it, it gets a little bit easier to be soft.
Yeah, yeah, and that's. I mean, I thought I would be retired already. I'm not quite retired, but I'm thinking I should be. And it's like, when it's cold outside, if I don't want to go outside, I don't.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm not that 21-year-old hard Marine that I used to be, and
Absolutely.
But I also think it comes down to, and I think you both hit it well on the head, is it starts in the home.
Well, and it's the heart of the warrior, and it's the influence. Everybody's dependent on the school to teach somebody
And that's the
and
whole
build
thing.
their character. The character building, especially with Common Core and some of the
That's the
satanic
thing.
shit that's came in.
It's been hijacked, right? I mean, what was back in the 1900s, early 1900s, 98% of the people could read. Now only 50% of the people are literate. That's a huge problem, right? I mean, so and what do? We just give them a pass. Well, everybody deserves a trophy. Well, if you can't even read your name on the trophy, I mean, you ain't going nowhere fast.
Well, and here again, you got the chat, whatever, and you got a lot of people that probably a little bit illiterate are pretty literate because of the technology that we've acquired. And that's kind of I think that shoots us in the foot.
Well, so I'm not going to blame technology, but it's got a part to play in this instant gratification where we can get access to whatever information or whoever, you think about something, you pick up your phone, you Google it, oh, I want to learn about this, you do this. It's this instant gratification instead of I have to read this book, or there has to be a little bit of, I call it delayed gratification.
So I'm
going to work for it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to come back to seed time and harvest. Stephen, we're going to wait 9 months for a calf. The cow gets bred. There's 9 months. You're going to have to wait. And then there's another 6 months where you wean that calf, and then you finally get paid. So that's not instant gratification.
Well, and that's
a seed time and harvest.
That's kind of an agricultural thing, right? I mean, that's just, it runs on cycles, right? I mean, you have a crop and you harvest it, and then, I mean, it takes a whole year for that to go down.
So when the country was created, we didn't have Safeways and all this stuff. We had seed time and harvest, and you had that character that was built in people. And that's what we've gotten away from. I think that is the center focus of where we need to be looking. Is people need to understand it's not a credit card world all the time, because 7 inches of the Earth's surface, the soil that produces the food, whether you're a billionaire or you're homeless, that's pretty, if you ain't got food, man, you're pretty much done. You're pretty much done.
Well, and the self-reliance, right? Being able to have to fix a problem on your own. Self-reliance, I'm a big hunter, fisher, I go out and I killed elk this year. I butchered it in my garage, put it in the freezer.
Amen. Right on.
That's the way I was raised, and I like to go catch, and I do eat the fish out of Deweese, but not
that's
after
okay.
July. From about July to ice on, I don't eat the fish, but I like to ice fish out there. But that self-reliance where you know where the food comes from.
Amen. Yes.
I think that, and there is a primal thing about it where when you know that you can support yourself and your family, and growing food and get, things like, then you're not you're more comfortable living out where people should not be living on top of each other. 6-7 million people in New York City. This is how people, I think, were made to live.
And I'm going to wholeheartedly agree with that. When the forefathers said, serve your country, do your political thing, but get back to the plow. Always have that independence. Boy, how far away have we gotten from that? And here comes JFK. Here comes Kennedy saying, "Look, I want to make things healthy," and you got all of these.
The big question,
Congress people just beating him to death. Go, no. We need big pharma.
Let's ask the real question here: is why? Why are people uneducated? Why are they after pharma?
Intentional.
If you can ask why and derive an answer from that, then you're going to get somewhere.
Yeah. I fully agree.
Just talking about it and cursing them over it really doesn't get you anywhere. Because I mean, an old friend of mine, he always said the only thing worse than what they are is talking about it. And that made a lot of sense to me. It's like, we already know that they're wicked. We already know that they're uneducated. We already know that they're greedy and that they have ulterior motives. But the question is why? And so, it's a bigger fish than we're ever going to fry,
For
right?
sure.
I mean,
I don't know. I really think that the awareness and the knowledge that has come about, and here again, some people they have a condemned conscience. They have a severed conscience. They're never going to be capable to understand what's right and wrong, and understand how to set a standard.
Normally I don't go there, but that's the whole thing about repent, though, is everybody has a chance to repent. And so you can be the most wicked thing or the most undereducated thing or whatever, but there's still, you can figure it out. I mean, it's there. It's not like it's elusive. You just have to pay attention.
And Steve, that you really bring up a solid point. And that's why my compassion toward people that don't willfully seek out good answers and good behavior, that's self-destructive.
Well, and
They've already chose self-destruction.
That goes back to if you think you're better than someone else, right?
Absolutely. Arrogance. Pride comes before a fall. Humility brings honor.
You're already out of position to ever get into
Absolutely.
a position to learn what the truth really is.
Yeah, and I also think people really have the tendency to stay inside their comfort zone, right?
Comfort is a big problem.
You know,
man.
you talked about it a
Yeah.
little bit. You know, people want to be comfort. They just want this. And, you know, I mean, when COVID hit you, what was the first thing? It was toilet paper, right? Who would have thought a pandemic hits and the most wanted commodity on the planet, or at least in the U.S., is toilet paper? Like, and I know there was supply stuff with that or anything, but that,
I was thinking milk cow feed. I could wipe with the wrapper.
as long as there's snow on the ground, I'm
Yeah,
good, you know?
but not only that, but I was thinking about, okay, if the stores are closed, we can't get transportation. I got milk, we've got cabbage, we've already stored a bunch of food. I had not one inkling of, that kind of insecurity that a lot of people had.
But the majority of the people live, and I learned from the Marine Corps, they call it an isthmus. I think that's the name of it. But I think it's the 12 miles from the coast inland. So the 80% of the world's population live within that 12 miles, like all around the coast, all around the world. And it's because that's where the ships come in, and that's where it's traditionally been.
Right.
It used to be you had to have a big set to walk up in the mountains, and go live
Right.
on your own, and but
That's huge. What you just said there is very, very analytic on why the coasts are so heavily populated.
Yeah.
Because the ocean is such a food source.
Yeah.
Whether it's transportation and exchange between country and country with shipping, but it also is a massive food source. So we still get down to the human nature.
Mm-hmm.
It always comes down to the why. How come is that? And then as you get into the high deserts and stuff like that, if we weren't able to drill wells and have electricity, we wouldn't possess this land.
There'd be a lot few of us, and we'd be fighting over the same stuff.
Windmills.
Yeah, windmills,
Not the.
not the big ones.
No, there's something that's going, there's a quarter of an ounce, there's another quarter of an ounce, but at the end of the day, it fills the water trough.
I mean, yeah, back in the day, before electricity, that's how they pumped water, was with windmills.
Yep.
Absolutely. Just
Piston pumps.
They're still around the valley.
double check valve, and it's a very simple deal, but it's if you don't know about it, you're shit out of luck.
I've rebuilt my fair share of those.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Let's, if you don't mind, Hans, tell us a little bit more about what happened, about what you've done with Trump in the election.
yeah. So I got a random text message middle of last October, and I wasn't doing much. I think I just got back from elk hunting, and a friend texted me, and she says, "Hey, do you want to go work on the Trump campaign for the election coming up?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. What am I going to be doing?" Well, we got people out, and this was in Arizona. Got 2 weeks. People are knocking on doors, trying to get people to, vote. These are already registered, Republican voters, and we just want you to basically supervise them to make sure they're doing their job because they get paid per door. So I basically drove around in a rental car all day, just stalking people and saying, "Oh, this guy's not doing his job," or "This girl's doing fine." And so I did that for a couple weeks, right up until it was the day before the election, so February 4th or November 4th.
Right.
November 4th, and I got another text message, and they said, "Hey, we're sending some other people, basically for the next 30 days, we don't know what's happening, but we're going to send you all around the country." So this is new for the Republican Party, is what happens after the election, because the Democrats have been doing this for a long time. So the big thing was that they call it curing a ballot. So like if you have your mail-in ballot and your signature's wrong or it's in the wrong envelope because they 15 different, and it's so complicated. Well, that vote goes into the county office, of your local county, and they take it, and if it's not right, they put it in a different pile.
It's uncured.
And so what they do is they allow a certain amount of time. Colorado, I think, has 15 days or something like. Every state's a little bit different about how long they have to actually cure that ballot. And so we initially went to Pennsylvania. That's where we went the election day. So I was in Pennsylvania on the election day because they only have curing on that day. that's their law. It said you can carry all these ballots, and so they put a whole bunch of us out there. In Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is obviously a huge state for the election. One of the
Swing
biggest
state.
Swing state, yeah. So we did that. Then they kicked us over, and we came here to Colorado, and we were doing it. Then we went out to California, and we're doing it.
So what were you actually doing there? Were you
Well,
actually?
so yeah, I forgot to talk about the cure and the ballot. So basically, they give you a list of people. Like in Colorado, for example, they give you a list of people, and they say, "Here's people you got to go talk to." You go knock on the door. If they answer, you kind of let them know, "Hey, I'm so and so, and I'm here trying to help you. Your ballot didn't count." And in Colorado, they can go to there's a little picture. They take an app. They can do it on their phone. It's a couple minutes, and they can cure it, and then the vote counts. California was a little bit different.
Imagine that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, California, they have 30 days from election, 30 days to cure ballots. And it was interesting, because we go back to we were working for one specific House representative down in around Orange County, around Knott's Berry Farm. So we were kind of in the LA area. And we'd come in and we'd be working and say, all right, we got all these. We tally up the numbers. Be like, all right, we cured, 100 ballots today. Well, the Dems would come in and they would be like 1,000 would drop. We're like, there's no way.
No way.
Because we saw both sides. There's no way.
That you can do that many in a day?
You could, but we were out in the same neighborhood talking. We didn't see anybody. And so I was never really a big, are they cheating on elections? I'm like, yeah. But after my experience, it is for 6 weeks. There is some shady stuff going on. And they try to do stuff behind closed doors. And I'm really, again, I'm not saying that anything, claiming any of this or that. I got my own personal opinion, but the level they built, I believe they build that in those 30 days. So why wouldn't you want it all done on the same day?
Right.
The only other reason is so that you can
Manipulate
it. That's the only reason, I think. I can't think of another good reason.
A 6-year-old or a 7-year-old or 10-year-old would go, well, because you want to be able to cheat. So
it's that preschool knowledge you're talking about.
And it really is, because I think we're a lot smarter when we're younger. And then I watched people going to college, and I thought, well, you're a little bit stupid going into college. And then when you got out of college, shit, you're real stupid now. Just the way it is. I barely made it through school, but I grew up on the ranch and ranching, farming, and construction. There wasn't too much I didn't know. With your hands. But now we're in a computer world.
Yeah.
And I'm completely lost.
Well, but there's very much, and I think people don't even consider, let's call it the farm life. There's a lot of people that don't even consider that. And that's considered dumb. And I would go the complete other way and say, no, like we talked about, that's self-reliance. You have to understand physics. You have to understand mechanics. You have to understand how am I going to fix this?
You understand seed time and harvest. That the people that are producing your food, it's not, okay, I want this, boom, I'm going to buy this car, I get a loan, boom, in 3 days I'm done, I own it. You don't get that on the farm. Whether you're raising pigs, you got 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. If you're raising cattle, you got 9 months. Chickens, you got 21 days. And as you're having to wait on that, you have to put the time in the beginning, and you got to wait for it. And when you remove that from society, when you remove that mandatory wait, where you have to exercise your patience, you cheat people out of that. You remove that out of the, and that's huge in our environment. That's huge in our creation. And I think that's a big thing that where we're losing it. People just don't have that. And everybody wants everything right now. So patience is a big, big part of.
I want it right now too.
I know, and honestly, I've gotten to that way, but I've started this thing, me personally. I do it, I call it boredom therapy. And what I do is I just sit and I stare at the wall. And I sit there for about 10 or 15 minutes. And I do that, try to do it every day. And I just sit there and I just don't focus. Call it meditation, call it whatever you want. But I just sit there because where's my phone? I gotta go do something. I gotta smoke a cigarette. I gotta
So here again, me being a Christian and studying the Bible, and I don't go to church. I just don't. But there's a scripture that says, "Be still and know that I'm God." Be still, and nobody can be still anymore. Nobody can be still, and that is a big practice. Is being still and getting quiet, and that's why going hunting,
Yes.
being a hunter,
Yes.
you have to be still. You got to be patient. You exercise all those character things that we need nowadays in order to be successful.
Yes.
Because if you're not patient, if you're not quiet, if you can't cheat that. There's no cheating hunting. You can't cheat
That
it.
is 100% accurate. And for 21 years in the military, the one thing I don't like about hunting is when I'm sitting there and my ears start ringing so bad and I can't hear anything because of the ringing and it's not
The
quiet.
pain of silence.
In the pain of silence. But no, that's more of a joke. But I agree. That's where I find my solitude. That's where I find my peace. That's where I feel comfortable with nature and more connected to the earth. And
When you feel the trees breathe.
yes,
Then you've got someplace, and I think that instills something in our character. But
well, that's part of
there's a systemic thing that's going on throughout the world, and I think technology is causing sterility. And when you get that sterility, you cheat yourself of developing into a character where you've had to endure some hardness, and you had to develop as an individual, and that's not where we're at.
Yeah.
So back to the so you were curing the ballots. So
Yeah.
you guys would get about 100 a day, and then
I guess it would depend. Here in Colorado, we had about, I don't know the exact numbers, but we had probably a group of about 15 people. We were all working together as a team, and we were working up in Weld County. So Colorado District 8. And so Gabe Evans, he was running up there against the gal, I don't remember her name, but she was the incumbent, and that county, Weld County, had been blue for 30 years. And so it was neck and neck, and that's why they called us in. And so we actually, they also ran out of money, and this is part of the whole Democratic Party ran out of money and, lost all $1 billion. And,
Whoopsie.
Whoops. But we actually made a difference, and we talked to some of the folks up at the Republican Party, the RNCC, the Republican National Congressional Committee. They came down and kind of talked to us afterwards and like, you guys, you made a difference. This has actually worked. We believe that what your efforts helped sway this election because it was neck and neck. And we were doing maybe, I would say, maybe a couple hundred a day, up there. Maybe not that many. Maybe
And that was
150
curing
a
the
day.
ballots?
Curing the ballots.
so did you have at the end? Did you have a total of how many that you actually did for Weld
No,
County?
so I was only really worried about myself at that. I've been trying to kind of get the numbers because I'm curious too, for the ballot carrying. But this is the way the elections are going to go now in the future. So, unless election laws are changed and you try to do what Wyoming's doing and go to a paper ballot, they're talking about potentially doing that. But if it's going to stay this way with the mail-in balloting, this is going to happen. And if you don't think the other side is really good at it, they're really good at it.
Yeah.
So Republican Party, I think, is going to put a lot more effort into this kind of thing. So I think you're going to see more curing and stuff like that. And the other is education. People don't even know. Because I got asked before I went down there, some friends were like, what happens if my ballot? And I'm like, I don't know. And then once I was going through the process, I learned. But why we need to educate people on if you put a ballot and look for a text message, because they'll send you a text or they'll send something in the mail. Don't throw it away. Don't think people are pounding, because everyone's sick of politics.
Yeah. And that and scammers.
Yeah, and scammers, and that we got a lot of that,
Yeah.
And so, and I understand. I wouldn't answer the door, if I'd be armed, but
Well, yeah, and I
just
mean
me.
that's the last thing when it's after election thing and you see something pop up that has something to do with the Republican Party,
Yeah.
you're like, click.
Yeah. And I didn't get any. We had called people, and I didn't get any phone calls back. But I started wearing my veteran hat, and after that, people got respected, And that
Good. So that's in the trenches.
it is.
That's really in the trenches, and that's where the difference is made. And you guys made a huge difference in Weld County. You got enough to get over the finish line.
Yeah, and
to make a
and
difference.
so he got elected. He's in
Yeah.
he's in DC right now. You know,
Exactly.
and so proof of concept that this actually works. But you also need to mobilize and organize, and there's a lot
Common
of that.
sense and orchestrating thing and strong leadership and inspiration and encouragement and education. And we lack that. I mean, Custer County is so lacking that it's unbelievable. But that's where we need to go. We need to damn sure get into the education part of it.
What did you do, Hans, then after you kind of got done with the curing of the ballots?
Well, so after that, we actually got sent to Iowa because they had the recount in Iowa it was Marionette Miller Meeks. They had a recount for her. So we went there for 10 days and we sat in a room, and I was an observer. And so we sat, it was me, it was a Republican observer, a Democratic observer, a Republican lawyer, a Democratic lawyer, and a non-biased lawyer in the middle. And we're a group of people, and we're watching them recount the votes, like through the machines and stuff like that. And that's another thing I learned. So when they actually count the votes, like, so when you go vote, you can do it electronically or whatever if you actually go in to vote. But they have a machine that actually, like, you do, and then they print it out. Well, then they scan that through looks like almost like a fax machine, or it looks like a printer, right? It's about this big. Well, that's what counts the vote. But then when they actually, but then when they actually count the vote, they put it on a different machine. And then when they were doing the recount, they were using different machines. And each one of these machines would come up with different numbers, right? And so they're like, well, we need to do it by hand. And it's like one of the counties had 80,000 votes. And I'm like, how in the hell are you going to do it by hand? It's going to take you a year, which is doing that. And it's, there's integrity. But one of the counties that was very far leaning left, they wouldn't let us talk to them. They had an armed sheriff there. They had all this stuff, and they wouldn't let the public in. And it was just really sketchy. And it's like, why are you trying to hide this?
Yeah.
And so he did that, and then I actually got done. I actually went to the inauguration. My brother and I went down there, went to the inauguration.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Right
tell us about that.
Yeah, so
I'm sure there's a lot of people like to kind of.
Yeah, so we went down there and didn't quite know what to expect. So my brother and I went, and so we showed up we flew in Saturday, but we showed up Sunday morning. So Sunday was the big Trump rally before the actual inauguration, and this was at the Capital One Arena. That's where all the sports teams kind of played. Like the hockey.
Oh, the
team.
Capital One Arena, yeah.
Yeah. That's where he had his inauguration.
Right.
And he did that, but it was cold, right?
Yeah, it was cold, wasn't it?
Well, when we got there, because me and my brother, we red tie, wearing a suit, wanted to do the whole Trump thing, and whatever. But trying to, we were kind of playing dress up, if you will. But it was kind
Sure.
of fun, getting in the moment.
Heck
and,
yeah.
Reason to dress up.
Right, and I was like, let's do this, man. And he was all for it. So we're standing. And it started raining, and we stood in line for 9. We were about 4. They were going to allow 20,000 people in. And they said over 120,000 people showed up.
Wow.
Whoopsie.
Right? And it's MAGA, 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 MAGA. And so we're standing in line, and it literally 9.5 hours of standing in line, and then it started raining, and then it got cold, and then the freezing rain. So you had that wintry mix.
So you're standing out there in your suit and tie.
And neither one of us put like long handles on or anything.
Good to be a Marine.
Not being hard, being dumb. That was
Well, no, yeah. If you're going to be stupid, you got to be tough.
Exactly. But both of us, everybody's like, aren't you cold? And, no.
I'm good to go.
I'm good.
I'm good to go.
But no, we got inside, and
Right on.
Yeah, we got inside, and so we sat in there, and it was just, they had Kid Rock play, and they had YMCA. They were doing all that deal. It's,
Right.
But Trump speaking. He had a bunch of guest speakers. Elon was up there speaking, and so that was just the electricity in the room. And it's one thing, and I've been to DC a handful of times, and I worked there for a little bit in the military, and it is not a friendly place. Like, if you've never been to DC,
It's a dog-eat-dog mentality
very
everywhere
much,
you go.
Everywhere,
Yeah.
people stealing cabs and Ubers and all that stuff,
Very selfish.
Exactly. Well, everybody was super friendly, wearing MAGA hats, and I mean, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm from Iowa, I'm from this. And it was but there was a feeling of
Relief.
hope. It was hope.
Yeah, you bet. Hope.
and
Heck yeah.
I always said since Obama ran, I said hope and change is not a viable course of action, but this is different. This is very much different. It feels like if Trump says if he does what he says he's going to do, and I think all of us believe he's going to do what he says he's going to do. This is the opportunity
There,
to
there,
do
there,
something great.
there was two different hopes. Obama ran on the hope of globalization, and everybody gets a trophy, and we are one, la da da. We have borders, and our borders start with our last names. Our borders start with ourselves. That's where reputation, honor, dignity, all that starts with our individuality, and that's why a republic is so important. So when Obama ran on that, it was more of a globalization, and everybody gets a trophy and la la la, and let's steal from the rich and give to the poor and balance it all out. Well, it sounds good, but that didn't work in reality. So here comes Trump. He's just going to, hey, it's all about merit.
Yes.
If you put your best foot forward, I'm going to make sure that you have the path. We're not hinder you. But if you're a little bit confused about being a boy or a girl, we need to kind of get you straightened out on that. We need to help you get your mind made up. And don't encroach on other people. Don't encroach. You can't be a man playing in a girl's deal, because that just doesn't work. That's just so out of balance. It's not natural.
Which he signed that deal today, that executive order.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, we're bringing realism, practicality.
Common sense. I mean, what's that?
That's it. It's like, wow.
Right?
Wow.
So common sense here again. If we don't get our school system back, and that's where he's got that Linda McMahon, who is the.
Yeah.
I mean, she's going to put herself out of work. It's like, no, let's shut this whole dog and pony show down. Give it back to the states, and then let the parents influence the counties and the state, so that there's a sanctuary there where natural affection is involved.
When the parents are getting weaponized, when the FBI is coming after school boards, I mean, you talk about an overreach.
Well, an overreach, and it goes back to who works for who.
Absolutely.
Right, or who works
that
for who.
that is it right in a nutshell. You give them an inch and they think they're a ruler.
I mean, and it happens here too. We're not trying to pick on the guys here, but it happens.
I do. I pick on the guys here. But yeah, you're right, Stephen. Try to be kind about the whole thing.
The thing is like telling them that they're screwing up is kind of like, we ain't gaining anything, right? I mean, we need to get to the root of the problem, and accusing them is not. That's back to the only thing that's worse than what they are is talking about.
Well, you brought up the why, right? Keep
There
asking
you
that
go.
question, why? Because I think that curiosity and just that why. And if there's no answer, well, do you want help finding an answer? Because I believe in people solving things together. We're human beings. We work better as a group.
Absolutely. And you need to look at both sides of the coin, and you need to purify the answer. But it all comes down to the proper question that's proposed. The answer is in the question, not in the telling. And once you can conjure up a right question to cause the reasoning facilities to kick in, then you maybe can make some headway.
Well, and it also has to do with an energy exchange, right? When you come at someone and you accuse them of something, they're on the defense. Whereas if you're asking them a question, then you kind of have a neutral relationship. If you're already after them, what I know what my first thing is if you come at me, you better know what you're talking about, or I'm going to smash you down, right? I mean, my world, what I am in my world. You better know what you're doing to come into my world and tell me about anything that I do, at the ranch or whatever. You better know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite things when I had the brewery down the hill was everybody, you know what you need to do? And as soon as I got that, it was just shut off. And,
Yeah, as soon as they say that, you're blanked out, right? You're no longer listening, and that's what we're trying to do, working on our skills too. And so that whole shutting them down too, that's kind of what we think is happening at CCRCC, is that this core group of people that are in there, they don't really want any help. They don't want other people involved. And so the question pops up of why, right? I mean, we're here to help. We're capable. We have we have good ideas, we have good ethics,
We have expertise.
we have expertise, we have all of this stuff. We have what you need to help, but yet you don't want us to help. And so the question that pops up is why? We know why, because you're up to your ulterior motives.
Well, that's unfortunate to hear. It's. I love living in Custer County. I moved up here 5 years ago. I bought my house right before COVID, right before all the prices got jacked up. So I lucked out. And honestly, I was born and raised in Colorado, 21 years in the military, moved all around, been to 28 different countries.
Yeah, no.
I speak a handful of languages. But I wanted to move to a place, and I believe this is the last gem, untouched gem.
Absolutely,
in
man. We have an
Colorado. It's one of
island.
them.
We have an environment here that the men back in the 70s did some things up here in the zoning, and created a breath of fresh air of Americanism, and said, look, and they had to see the day coming. They had to have that they had to have that foresight to say, no, this is how we want to keep this. And this is the American way. And that's why this podcast is happening here right now, is to protect that. So we don't get obliterated with money lovers and people that don't have principles and don't understand.
It's beautiful and it's fragile, though. It's very, very fragile.
It's fragile.
And you got to hang on to it, because I think John Dutton said in Yellowstone, he's like, if people had all the money in the world,
Yep.
this is what I would want.
So
And that's what everybody did.
So here again, I've never heard that, but that speaks volumes to my being. Why did I move here? I was born on the ranch. I was born on the dirt in Northern California. And I went to the pavement. I got off that. And that sterility it robbed my soul of my being. And I was like, wait a minute, I got to get back. And then I ended up in Denver, and that was even 10 times worse.
That's where I grew up.
Yeah, and then when I found this place, and I just told my wife, I said, honey, I can't breathe anymore. I've got to go. I've got to get back to the dirt. And I'm here, and I want to protect and do everything I can to preserve this place.
It's a special place, and it is. I believe it is fragile. And there's no more room in Aspen and Breckenridge and Vale, and people are looking and say, where else can we go?
Well, it was affordable stuff too,
Right.
and people could come in and capitalize on it and exploit it. And I thought to myself, boy, oh boy, how are we going to withstand this wilds of all this stuff that's coming this way, and how we're going to keep the island somewhat preserved?
Well, I think and it's a lot easier said than done, but there is the West Cliff wave, and there is this friendly, and everybody kind of will help each other out. You're on the side of the road. people
Absolutely,
stop,
man. It's
and that's-
full of love.
Yeah, it's love, but effective, organized. Maybe again, I'm not super involved, and I'm not trying to throw stones at anybody, but that group of collective ideology where everybody's kind of thinking and working towards maybe a similar objective, a similar goal, instead of maybe fighting at each other. And I think that's kind of human nature, is to kind of do your own thing. And unless you're really an empathetic person who loves being around groups of people, sometimes that takes a little bit of work and effort.
And it takes a lot of work. And to me, I have to break things down in very simple terms so that I can talk about them or reason with them. To me, there's people that came here that want to preserve it. And it's like, close the gate. We like it like it is, man. Leave it alone. And then you got other people that are very ambitious, that are going to go low-income housing, and let's break up this, and let's change the zoning. And they're very money hungry.
And it boils down to, and I've spoke about this before, and I really do feel that the main division amongst people all has to do with how you feel money should be spent. The Republican, the conservative people feel that we need to be accountable, we need to be responsible. Savings,
Live within our means.
Live within our means.
And then you have the other side of, well, let's spend it all. We won't get, our budget won't be as big next year if we don't spend
Hurry
it.
up and spend it before it's all gone.
And I mean, in my opinion, that's the fundamental division between
Absolutely.
people. Is how you, are you okay? I mean, one of the big things that we had the big gripe with the CCRCC, it was how they counted the money. And they didn't count the money when they left Lincoln Day, the Lincoln Day fundraiser. And so half of us completely think that was sinister. I would never do that. I would want 10 people to see that I don't want to have someone come at me and say, well, we think you might have done this. You're never going to get that chance with me, because I'm going to make sure that I have all my proof lined up. The money was counted. There's pictures. There's 5 people signed off.
And here again, that's the ethical thing. And there's a one thing that says it all is you got to be above reproach. You cannot create a situation that creates suspicion.
Yeah.
And as soon as you create suspicion, you're not above reproach, because you did something that breached that. And you made a move that gave you that exposed you to suspicion.
That's where I'm back to where if you're on the Democratic side of things and you think that there shouldn't, you don't have to worry about accountability, that never crosses your mind.
No, it's lawlessness. Absolute lawlessness.
Yeah.
And most of us have a law that's built in us that says, wait a minute, I collected all this money and I need to make sure that you guys know that I didn't take any of it.
Well,
it really comes down to that.
I'm worried about my dad whoop my ass if I do anything bad. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how my dad grew up as a cowboy in Wyoming, and those are the
Absolutely.
values I had, you know?
So that
Same
value, exactly. I could hear my uncle roll over in bed. I mean, I was like, holy schmoly. I mean, so and it was respect, it was somewhat fear, but and then when that's built in your character.
Yeah.
So then you read the Bible and you get into religion or some kind of belief system, you can't get over that. There's no way you can get over that conditioning, that social conditioning.
Well, and I think value, like, right? So
There's the value. There it is.
what is materialistic value? I need to buy more stuff, or am I getting different value from fly fishing in the South Platte River?
Well, it's behavior.
Yeah,
But it's also your reputation.
Yeah.
Your reputation is everything. A good name is better than fine silver. And if you don't have that, if you voided that out, if you don't even understand it, I could say that to some people, it's like a mule looking at a new gate. They can't even hear you. What do you mean? Like, okay, if you didn't hear me, we're going to have to get into a 4 or 5 hour learning thing. I'm going to need a chalkboard and an etch sketch, and we're going to have to get into a lot of stuff, because whatever it is that where you could have heard me, where a normal person would have heard me, you don't have that ear. You don't have the ear developed in you.
So an example of what we're talking about is, so after all that stuff boiled down with Lincoln Day, and then we had another meeting, and so they arranged for Laurel and Weston Eimer to come up. So they're in the Republican Party.
From the state.
I'm not sure exactly how her position, but Weston is understands the financial responsibility, the
Campaign finance laws.
campaign finance law. And so this lady stood up and told him, well, they don't have a right to look at the money.
The public don't need to look at the books.
The public don't have a right to look at this money. And Weston said, you are so far off in the ditch and in the weeds. You said, you have no idea what you're talking about. And he burned her down. And the odd thing is, where I'm going with this whole thing is that she never heard any of that.
Right.
Still to this day, she believes what she said is right, that we don't have a right to do it. And that's the whole problem with the county too. They don't want to show us what's going on with the finance because it's not squared away. There's something wrong there, that they'll be incriminated if they show what's going on.
Exactly. And that's where the word integrity, transparency, upright, those are the things that blend, where people got to conduct themselves in a way where they're above reproach. And when you say that, what do you mean above reproach? They don't even know what you're talking about. That is the sterile society that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
My uncle would say, "Did you fill those cattle troughs up? Are the cows all fed? Are the waters all filled? Are the fences good? You damn well better not stutter step, because you'll get a cane right across your shin."
Yeah.
There ain't no almost or would be or could be. No, it is or it ain't. You either did it or you didn't. There wasn't any, "Oh, well, I think I feel like it today." Oh, yeah, them cows go without water for a few days. We don't need to hay them, and then we don't need to take care of the rabbits, and the chickens be all right. No, your ass is there every day.
Yeah.
And if you fail, there's consequences. People now can fail and there are no consequences.
My dad always used to have a saying that said, "I don't know is not an acceptable answer."
Yeah.
And I think that put a lot of value in me. Is like, you can't just, "I don't know." That's not the answer.
No. You do know.
You do know.
You damn right you know.
If not, you better figure it
better
out.
figure
You better
it
go
out.
look at it and come back with it, yes or no.
Yeah.
Because and here again, I don't put up with a lot of nonsense. People come back with that kind of, "Well, did you do?" No. It was a yes or no question, man. And if you don't know it, just tell me no.
Yes.
But don't sit there and bullshit me, because there is none of that. It's black or white. There is no gray.
Right. We grew up different eras, different times, different places, but there's a lot of same values. There are a lot of things that's pretty consistent.
It's Americanism.
Right. And I think that's the culture. That's the culture part of what our country's missing. It's the heart. It's proud to be an American. Is the flag, right?
Well, and you totally, not to cut you off there, but I really do feel that we're the majority. They make it seem like we're the minority, but we're not, right? People that want to do the right thing are the majority here, right? We know what's right. Holding the door open for the little old lady, taking care of your kids, right? Don't lie.
Slamming the door on your brother.
All the stuff that happens in this world, right? I think most people have a pretty good idea of what the right thing to do is, and yeah. Have we been deceived? We have. Are some of us lost? They are. Some of them are probably beyond. They're beyond, right? But that's not our problem, and it's not our fault.
That's out of my bailiwick.
And so, with that being said, right? I think we're on the right step. Just like what you were talking about. Now, you just kind of. I only got involved in the Republican Party about a year ago. Never, and that's something that we kind of talk about with the party itself. Is of all these years that I've lived here and been registered Republican, not once ever has anybody ever reached out to me, and that's what the PCP are, the precinct committee people. Their job is to reach out to the voter and be a representative of the voting public. And they don't do that.
That's the first collection of the voice of the people is through the PCPs. That's the first collection of the voice of the people, and we devalue it, and we've neglected that so much here. So the issues in the interaction between the PCPs and the constituents is at a null here. We are absolutely vacated of that, and it's almost damn near intentional.
And it has been for a long time. This is something that always really surprised me. Up till this last year, they've never even had the Custer County Republican Central Committee has never even had enough money to send their delegates to the state level to vote. They had to pay for it on their own. That is
pitiful.
It blows me away.
That's pitiful.
Wow.
Yeah. And so just this finally this year with Jack got in there, Jack Canterbury, and a lot of controversy there. We've talked about it before. We're almost out of time here, so we're not really going to push.
A lot of that was growing pains.
But they ended up raising almost $20,000 through all of the fundraisers they had. And so, kudos to them guys for stepping up and doing that. And it was great, right? I appreciate everybody that did anything. And then a lot of the people try to say, well, you don't appreciate us. That has nothing to do with it, right? Where we had the beef is that you didn't count the money. You said it was accounted for, but you never counted it. The root word of account is count. but you didn't count the money, right? And that's why a lot of us were upset. Yeah, well, we're not accusing you of stealing it, but you can't prove that you didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem.
Yeah. So that's here again, that's staying above reproach. And approach just means that your actions and behavior keeps any suspicious behavior so nobody can come at you. Nobody. You're above reproach. And I don't even know how else to say that. I mean, it's aggravating to me because when I've spoke to that,
it's a personal feeling.
Yeah.
I would never, I don't want to be in that position that them people don't care.
they don't even have a clue. They don't even have a conscious.
They don't think they did anything wrong.
Yeah, there's no yeah. So I to me, I think they've severed their conscience on some plane, and and if you didn't have it, here again, Jesus said that my people hear my voice; they hear me. They got an ear to hear. Some people got an ear to hear, and they can't hear, and that's a harsh reality. It's like, wow, man, that's right here, right now. So there again, we've got a lot of work to do. We got Trump in there. He's making some differences. And here again, the people around him said, look, if you guys don't make a difference in your county, everything that we do up here is for naught. It's for naught. So hopefully we can get some people inspired and encouraged to get involved.
Well, yeah, and with that being said, so this Saturday, folks, at 4 o'clock at the Rancher's Roost is going to be the election of the Custer County Republican Central Committee. 4 o'clock Saturday, Rancher's Roost. The general public can't vote, but of course, people's opinion and all that stuff is valued, even if it doesn't seem like it is right to start. I mean, the more people that'll show up, the more people that are there every meeting, the more pressure we can put on to try to get stuff lined out. And so we encourage everyone to do that. With that
please. It's cheapest entertainment this side of the Mississippi anyways.
I'll be there.
Yeah, right on. Woo-hoo!
Do you have anything else to kind of close on, Hans?
No, I thank you both, gentlemen. Thank you so much
Well,
for the
thank
opportunity
you.
to do this.
Appreciate
Happy
you.
to be here. Had a great time. I love talking about this. Usually the wife tells me to shut up about 15 minutes into a conversation, so this is great. I get a little of my addiction out, so this is good. Thank you.
Well, no, and being a
bet.
patriot
Thank you,
and writing a blank check for your life and serving the country, I mean, don't walk on. When you're around me, please, my oldest brother was killed in Vietnam. You are not going to walk on his blood, nor are you going to walk on your service. That means everything to me. I was never in the military. I took ROTC in high school. My brother-in-law was a major ranger, and he goes, you're not going to do too good in the military. but here's the deal. Get some schooling. Go in, and you better try to get ahead of it, because it's going to be tough on you.
Yep.
But anyways, at the end of the day, appreciate you. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
very,
Thank you.
very,
Thank you
very,
very much.
very
Yeah, I
much.
appreciate your service, man.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you
it.
bet.
Yeah, thank you.
With that being said, folks, wish you a good evening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Rancher's Roost.
Yep, Saturday.